Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I begin today, I want to take the opportunity to thank the Veterans Service Council for their service here today and also for their service throughout the year to all of the many veterans and their families to which they serve. It is truly a sacrifice for these men and women, but it is so very much appreciated by the community. Let's give them a round of applause. And I think I missed most of my opportunity here, but I think we need to give a round of applause to the Meadowbrook Band. This was stop number 3 out of 4 today for them, for all they do. Thank you again for asking me to speak here today. The 2018 Senecaville Memorial Day service. It is truly an honor to speak to you here today. And there are several matters I would like to talk to you about today. I want to begin with an article that I recently read, and it's entitled, "Enough Already with the Happy Memorial Day Nonsense." Now, this article provided that we should not wish someone a happy Memorial Day, as those terms contradict one another. There are days set aside each year to celebrate our nation and all the freedoms that each of us enjoy, and to show our patriotism. This day is celebrated every July 4th and is known as Independence Day. There's a day set aside to honor all veterans who have served our nation, particularly those who have returned from a battlefield. This day occurs on the 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour, and is held November 11th and is known as Veterans Day. And while there's no particular day set aside to honor all of our current service personnel, ladies and gentlemen, that can be done every day when you see them, by thanking them for their service, shaking their hand, or possibly buying them a cup of coffee. However, this day was set aside by Congress in 1967, declaring this a federal holiday and naming this day as Memorial Day. It was previously known for many years as Decoration Day. Memorial Day is a day of mourning and remembering the men and women who gave their lives in service for each of us here and the rest of our country. It is a day that should be met with respect and reverence. So from that perspective, it is very appropriate that we are here today at the cemetery to remember those men and women who died for our service. The flag on Memorial Day is to be raised briskly to the top of the staff and then solemnly lowered to the half-staff position, where it remains only until noon. This position remembers the more than 1 million men and women who gave their lives in service to our country. At noon, their memory is raised by the living who resolve not to let their sacrifice be in vain, but to rise up instead and continue to fight for liberty and justice for all. Now, when I was asked to speak here today, Fiscal Officer Jackie Newhart mentioned to me that she had been working on a veterans database for all the cemeteries in Richland Township. And she stated while gathering photos and information of veterans interred here at the Senecaville Cemetery, she came across a veteran who served during Vietnam and died at a very young age. His name is Philip K. Gooden, and he died on July 4th, 1962. He was only 20 years old at the time of his death, and she provided his obituary to me. Now, on this day, you hear the word sacrifice. People throw it around all the time. According to the dictionary, sacrifice is an act of offering to a god something precious, or a destruction or surrender of something for the sake of something else. However, when we look at the life of Philip Keith, and Keith was his middle name, that's what he was known as, Gooden, I think we will see the real definition of sacrifice. From the obituary, I learned that Keith Gooden had 2 siblings, a brother Gary and a sister Sandra. I was able to make contact with both of those family members. Sandy was the younger sister of Keith. Keith was 4.5 years older than Sandy, and they were very close growing up. Sandy told me that their oldest brother, Gary, graduated from high school, and shortly thereafter moved to Arizona. Keith and she remained in their parents' home. Sandy said that they had many mutual friends. She also told me that when they were children, their parents did not have a lot of money, but upon graduation from high school, Keith obtained a job at the local Sears store. Sandy relayed to me that she was very much interested in that time with a suede leather jacket. She told me she really liked the jacket. She liked how she looked in the jacket and really wanted that jacket, but they didn't have enough money. Her brother Keith knew how much she was interested in the jacket, and he made sure that she got the suede leather jacket. She mentioned to me that just like that, he always did things, like doing things for other people. And she described her brother's death as being a very, very difficult time for their entire family. Gary told me that it took about 2 weeks for Keith's body to be returned to Ohio. They had a funeral service in Akron, where they were from, and the body was laid to rest here at the Senecaville Cemetery. Keith's father was raised here in Senecaville, and his grandparents resided here. And as we can all imagine, Keith's parents and siblings took his death very hard. In fact, Keith's father died a mere 8 months after he died. Sandy relayed to me she thought a portion of this was due to Keith's passing. And both Gary and Sandy became choked up talking about this. Keith's death, ladies and gentlemen, occurred in a very tragic manner. He was stationed in Japan, and he and another service member were driving to Tokyo for some rest and relaxation. This happened during the monsoon season, and the truck that Keith was a passenger in crashed, resulting in his death. Sandy said she remembers that shortly after Keith's passing, her parents received a telephone call from the driver of the vehicle, who was a good friend of Keith's, advising how sorry he was of the crash. This man felt very, very bad that he survived and Keith passed away in the accident. Sandy also told me that Keith joined the service together with one of his high school classmates, a friend named Glenn. Glenn was the one that convinced Keith to join the service, and they both signed up together. Glenn was later, shortly thereafter, given a medical discharge, and Keith remained in the Air Force. Sandy said that Glenn always expressed remorse for Keith's passing, as he was the one that convinced him to join the military. And Sandy and Gary both relayed that their mother was just never quite the same after losing her son, as I think we can all imagine. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I found all of this to be very moving and inspiring. And when we sometimes speak of the ultimate sacrifice that the soldiers make in dying for our country and all the freedoms that we enjoy, when we actually take the time to think about the sacrifice that the rest of the family makes and the ripple effect it has on others, it is quite overwhelming. So, even though it's been almost 56 years since Keith's good passing, I wanted to present this information to you to illustrate the sacrifice not only made by him, but by the many, many others that were affected by his death, including his parents. And Keith and his parents are buried directly to my left over along the roadway. There's a flag and some flowers that were placed there, including his brother Gary, his sister Sandy, and many others. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I would encourage you on this day to take the time to remember the sacrifice that the many men and women have given for our freedom. At 3 o'clock today, there's a national moment of remembrance. I would ask that each of you stop what you're doing at that time and honor those who have sacrificed everything for our freedom. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America.